Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Christian's Conversations with. Today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Greg Daurio. He's a digital marketing manager with about 15 years of experience. So Greg, nice to meet you and thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Well, Greg, like everyone out there would probably tell you, and I've seen your posts, and it seems like a lot of people have noticed your posts. So first of all, congratulations on the new job. It looks like you just started it, correct?
Did I'm in middle of week 2 at this point, so still getting my sea legs, and it's kind of like drinking out of the fire hose. So it's just all the information overload. But yeah, I'm really excited, really happy, landed in a great space.
Awesome. Well, let's first, I guess, get a little bit of background. So, tell me about your career journey and what led you to where you're kind of at today.
Sure. Yeah. So my career journey is probably a little bit unorthodox. I was a sports writer actually for a number of years in a previous life. And about 15 years ago, some economic turmoil with the housing crisis fallout, and the magazine I was working at went under, and I was in a kind of a inflection point and decided I wanted to pivot and managed to land a job at an e-commerce company. They were looking for a content marketing person. They figured it was easier to teach someone SEO and digital marketing than it was to teach a digital marketer how to write. And so they gave me my first start, and that kind of went from there. I bounced around a little bit early in my career, and then I landed at a software reseller in the B2B space, in the enterprise software, and really found my sweet spot there and really enjoyed it. And so I've essentially stayed in B2B and stayed in software for the most part throughout the last 10 years or so. And in the last 3 years, specifically, I've been in the cybersecurity space. So network security, policy management, and my current role is at a data security company. So the industry experience definitely has helped in my journey, but that's kind of the nutshell, if you will, of kind of how I got to where I was to where I am.
Cool. And obviously, cybersecurity is kind of the buzzword out there. I mean, it's been for the last couple of years, but more so probably recently. And with my background, we've been dealing with it for a while. Why do you think cybersecurity is so important today compared to even a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, every year hackers are getting more sophisticated. I remember it really wasn't like top of mind until I actually was starting working in cybersecurity, and then I started noticing the letters I would get from whether it was Experian or whoever it was, like, hey, your data might have been compromised in a breach, and just letting you know. You start realizing that this is happening all the time, and the compliance that we have in this country, whether it's financial services or HIPAA, medical information is incredibly valuable. It's unfortunate a lot of companies wait until something bad happens before they invest in the measures necessary to protect themselves, but I think we're getting to a point where companies are realizing that the problem's not going away, and they need to really be proactive instead of reactive. And I think the companies that are doing it right in the cybersecurity space are kind of leading that charge. And yeah, now with AI, it's going to be a race between the bad actors and the good actors on who's leveraging AI the best to achieve the end goal. And so I think that's going to be a key player in the cybersecurity space moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to make it harder because I think, everyone's like during my free time, and I noticed you did as well, like took some courses around AI just to get a little bit better familiar with it. And it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing what it can do in a good way, but like everything else, good things, bad people do bad things with. So it's trying to decipher, like you said, where we're at and what's real. And that's going to be harder. And I think cybersecurity companies like the one you're working for, that's going to be a big push for them down the line. For that type of company, what does a marketing manager do like for them? Is it to show people the product or what's your role there?
Yeah, so I'm in digital marketing specifically. So the simplest way that I can describe what I do, regardless of what company I'm working for, is I try to make it where the end user of our product can find us more easily. So whether that's through a Google search, whether that's on LinkedIn, I'm in B2B, so LinkedIn would be the social network that I focus on, whether that be through email marketing, whatever the channel is, it's, instead of us going to them at, say, like a trade show or something like that, it's really making it so they can come to us. Another term for it would be like inbound marketing. So it's bringing the people to our website so we can present our story to them in a way that hopefully resonates. and leads to deeper conversations.
Prior to landing this new position, how long were you searching in the job market?
So I
Roughly.
know the dates exactly. So my story is a little wild, a little more context. I was in a RIF, a reduction in force, about 2 years ago. And then the company that my previous company, my most recent previous company, I was actually on vacation and I came back from vacation to find out that the company had ceased all operations and everyone had been laid off. So I've been in this market's been pretty challenging for going back about 2 years. So my current job search started on February 24th. It was a Monday, and I got an official offer. My first official offer came in, I want to say first week of May or very, very tail end of April. So I was out of the market or in the job market and out of work for roughly 10 weeks. The last couple weeks of that, I realized that I was getting really close on a couple of opportunities, and so it was just a matter of closing the deal. But officially 10 weeks before I started my new gig.
So, sound like you might have had a couple possible opportunities, and I'm seeing that with a lot of people in their posts, like, "Hey, I'm up for like two or three positions." So, during that time frame, and obviously you're feeling some confidence, which is understandable. Do you still continue to look, or like put our eggs in our basket prior, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, I was talking to a recruiter during this process and mentioning that yeah, I've got a couple irons in the fire. And I kind of mentioned, I'm still open to listening to opportunities and looking until, the ink dries on the offer letter. And he kind of jokingly responds like it's more like until your laptop arrives and you've started your first day. So yes, to answer your question, I was looking through the at the end of the day, I ended up with two official offers being tendered and a third company that entered very late in the process. And I'm always very transparent through the process with anyone I'm speaking with. I told them that I was pretty deep in the process, and they were trying to move me through at lightning speed to get me through. And I ended up pulling out of that process after I got the two offers because even if even if I had gotten through and gotten a third offer, they would have been my third choice. So I got obviously blessed and fortunate, but I think part of it is just once you start getting the momentum going and you get in that rhythm, it becomes a lot easier to navigate the interview process and all of that.
The one thing I noticed with some of your posts was you were thanking the people that helped you get your foot in the door. So is that how you were able to kind of get these qualifying offers? People you knew that were able to get you in front of the right people?
Absolutely. I think in my post, I kind of broke down numbers. I know some people keep spreadsheets of every job they've applied to, and I wasn't quite that crazy about it, but I did kind of loosely keep track of how many jobs I was applying to a week. I was setting myself goals, simply just hitting apply. I did get a couple of interviews out of that, but they really didn't go anywhere. What really resonated and what really helped get the momentum going was leveraging my network. And what I mean by that is before I would hit apply on a job, I would go to the company page, I would look at the people tab on the LinkedIn page. And then I would use a couple filters that are available in LinkedIn to find who are my first connections, who are my second connections, what are the teams that these people work on. So I could filter it all the way down to, I only want to see people that I have a mutual connection with that work in the marketing department because I'm marketing. So I'm looking for people that potentially are going to be peers and colleagues. And I also was looking at HR because every process generally starts with HR and ends with HR, so this also would be a good intro. And so, yeah, it's really just finding someone that you have a mutual connection with. Obviously, on LinkedIn, not all of your connections are first name basis, like how's it going? Let's go have beers after work type of situations. But if I've had genuine conversations with people, if it was a vendor that I've worked with, in a couple of cases it was former coworkers, reaching out to them and basically saying, hey, I'm about to apply to a role here. I see that you're connected to Christian. If you know Christian pretty well, I was hoping you could give me an introduction. And that happened a few times and was able to get my foot in the door with a few places. And that's exactly how I got my foot in the door with my current role is a coworker of mine or a former coworker of mine knew one of the people on the hiring team and sent a glowing recommendation. I swear to God, if you read it, you would think I paid her to say these things. But but she sent a glowing recommendation. The hiring manager reached out to me, said, "Give me your resume, and we'll have HR start the process." So that really, for me, is what worked best is the networking and using your network to get that introduction.
You talk about red flags in the job listing, like in the post. What are some of the things? Because I see some of the things you talked about. So if you give us a little more information, what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, pattern recognition has always been something that I'm pretty good at. And I also I used to bartend. And so I could remember faces and remember like little details about people and like what their drink order was. I wouldn't remember your name to save my life, but I could start remembering. I just have a knack for remembering, this company name in this role, and I've seen it before. And now here it is posted again, a week later. And each time they're collecting 100 resumes, or you can see that, 100 people clicked apply. And so, in my experience, when there's companies that are posting the same job over and over and over again, usually it's coming down to one of two things. They're either collecting resumes, they're not really looking to hire someone. If the perfect candidate comes along, okay, or what they're looking for is so hyper specific that they're going to just be looking forever because the person just simply doesn't exist. So that was one of the big red flags that I felt. You can kind of get a sense with some of the job descriptions and requirements, generally what like a company culture is going to look like. I'm trying to think of I actually read one today, an example where someone said that they saw in one of the job listings that more than 2 jobs in the last 5 years need not apply. And it's like, I mean, are you aware of the current market conditions? Like, that's just going to be a normal thing with all the layoffs in tech and everything that's going on. There's going to be a very significant pool of candidates that are highly qualified. And so just looking at things like that and kind of picking and choosing and realizing that there's certain things where it's not worth your time or effort to apply to are things that I also kind of incorporated through my process.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw that post earlier today as well, where somebody said, and it said like, "Don't apply if you've had." It's like and I would never guess this. I haven't looked for a job in 18 years, so this is, we went to job fairs, and basically you go down with your resumes in hand and talk to people. So this all new. Lots of it better, lots of it not. But so yeah, I mean, so it's all new to me. You talk about timing in the job market. And I think that is key. Well, I think that's key in everything in life. To be honest, it's not just the
Very
job
true.
market. It's about timing, and working, like you said, your connections. Meeting that person at the right time, or the job just opens up at the right time. I mean, you probably were a good fit for these obviously opportunities, but if they were not available at that time, they would. You might have had to go somewhere else. Um, and that's not something you can control, so you have to work on the other aspects. What kind of tools were you using that you thought were helpful during this 10-week process for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've focused really heavily on the networking. Not necessarily a blessing, but having gone through a similar job search like 2 years prior in a similarly difficult environment, kind of keyed me into this search on kind of where to focus my energy. But some of the things that I use is, well, I mean, for part of it, I mean, we talked that I took some courses on AI. So just things that I could use to bolster my resume and bolster my skill set. So there's a lot of free options out there that you can just do a Google search. And I specifically was looking for courses on AI for marketing. Coursera has a decent one. Sarah allows you to audit courses being taught through various universities. So getting both a theoretical and a practical education on AI for marketing was something I used to occupy my time. Um, Obviously, ChatGPT I think is a good tool to help with taking bullet points on your resume and turning them from kind of passive into more active bullet points. And what I mean by that is instead of, you know, worked with, multiple teams to develop strategy for go to market, whatever, it's, led cross functional strategic teams to develop a strategy that led to X amount of growth, or it led to a certain percentage bump in leads, and showing results, like results oriented bullet points instead of just kind of listing what your day to day job duties were. So it was really helpful with that regards in kind of building that out and helping me improve my resume that way. You can also use those tools to tailor a resume to a job description. I think where a lot of people go wrong is they let the AI do it and then they just don't look at it and they don't go through and check and make sure everything's kosher. And then a lot of people are also using like AI bots to just auto apply and shotgun resumes out there, which I think is more part of the problem with today's job market than it is a solution to help people. But for me, it was really just growing my skill, using tools to grow my skill set, and then using the AI tools more as a refinement than as a crutch.
Yeah, it's almost like a catch 22 with like ChatGPT or any of the AI tools because we all know we need to use it to hit certain words. But if you do it too much, it's like it's too robotic, you know. So it's a.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that is important. I think we all forget that sometimes. Is okay. Let it write it. It's going to write it better than I do, perhaps. But then I want to tweak it to really make it personable, so it does sound like it's coming from me. The downside with that is if they're just reading it, they cannot see the person behind it without talking to them. That's probably the biggest hurdle I think we're all running across, right? Is we're not even
Right.
getting a chance to talk to somebody on the other end.
Yeah, and that's why I think leveraging your network and trying to get those introductions is important. And in some instances, I would cold email. I use the LinkedIn Premium service, which I know people who are struggling in a job search don't necessarily have extra finances to LinkedIn Premium isn't cheap. But for me, it helped being able to, if the hiring manager wasn't posted on the job listing, fairly easy to figure out who you would probably be reporting into based on the org chart that's listed on their LinkedIn people page. Um, and cold emailing them and just reaching out and saying whatever you can use as an icebreaker. Hopefully, you have a mutual connection, so that's an easy icebreaker. It's, hey, I saw that we're both connected to Christian, and Christian and I work together at XYZ company on these kinds of projects, and hopefully the projects are related to the job listing. And then you're saying, I'm reaching out because I think I'm be a great fit for the digital marketing manager role. I would encourage you to reach out to Christian and just kind of gauge my skill set and also my character. I've attached my resume just in case it gets caught up in that ATS scanner, and I hope you wish you the best of luck in your search. And you just leave it at that. And sometimes the cold emails get a response, sometimes they don't, but it gives you a sense of control over your process versus just hitting apply 100 times a day and not hearing anything back, which I think that would be demoralizing. And so I wanted to take control back of the process and humanize the process. And so that's what worked for me.
No, good piece of advice because I think that is key. If you are using the premium, definitely take advantage of the tools that it does offer. If not, there's other ways. I mean, like everything, you do have to spend some time to do research. Just like when you apply for a company you may not know that well, really look at the company's website and see if that is a true company you want to work for. Because I think
Of
now
course.
you're seeing this where people are just applying for, if it has a title, digital marketing manager, I'm applying. Well, it may not even be a company you want to work for. And, the worst part would be to go through all that process and then find out that's not really the fit for me and to put that time and effort in there.
And then also the job listings will say digital marketing manager, but that is a somewhat broad definition. And so you read if you just apply to anything that says digital marketing manager, just in like just say, I just need to get 100 resumes out today, you might realize after the fact that their idea of what a digital marketing manager is just a guy who updates the website, or it's not really what you want to be doing in your career, or it's not something that's going to help you grow your skill set and improve professionally. I think you really, and that's again going back to the AIs that are auto applying for people. It's really counterproductive, in my opinion, at least, to finding the right job, and also not flooding these recruiters with 1,000 resumes. And so that's why no one gets their resume read because they just can't possibly sift through all of that. So it's you do still need to be there needs to be a human element. I guess is what I'm driving at to your job search and how you're approaching things.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's from this side of the table, we're all saying, well, they need to reach out, blah blah blah. But then again, if I'm on their side of the table going, listen, you see in the first hour I'm getting 150 applications. Probably 1% is really truly a fit for that position. But I still have to, somebody has to cipher through it, whether it be a computer or whatever the case is. So by the time they get to you, they either may go through 10 that are more qualified than you, or that at least meet their needs, and they may not get to you. So it's doing that. I saw the one tip you got from another gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, about the you changing like the 24
Yeah.
hour window. I never heard that, and I read it on your little, and I tested it just to see. I'm like, oh, I wonder if that, and lo and behold,
Oh
it
yeah.
works.
Brilliant. It gets you into those job listings. So to kind of expand on what you're saying, when you're doing a job search, you can filter just natively in LinkedIn for jobs posted in the last 24 hours. And in the URL, I believe it's 84,000, and that's the number of seconds that are in a 24-hour period of time. You'll see that number 84,000 in the URL, just kind of hidden in like this query string. Well, you can change that number, and so if you change it to the number of seconds in an hour, which I believe is 3,600,
3,600, yeah.
yeah, you can change that number, and it'll now show you job listings that have been posted within the first hour. So at least it gives you a little bit of a head start on some of the other people with regards to getting your applications in. But I think you need to combine that. I mean, that's a nice tool, but I think you still need to combine that with the outreach and the networking and use all the tools like together is what's going to get you that foot in the door. There's no one magic bullet.
No, it's a mix. You know, and everyone has to do what works best for them, whether it be working with a recruiter, getting somebody to help them with their resume. You know, obviously with the person with your kind of background with writing, you probably didn't need a ton of resume help, but like anything, it doesn't hurt to have somebody look at it.
Of course not. I very early in my process posting to LinkedIn or about just got laid off and gentleman that I connected with years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, when I was kind of testing the market to see what was out there. He interviewed me for a role and it wasn't a good fit, but we stayed connected on LinkedIn. He reached out to me and we jumped on a call together, like a video call, and he gave me some pointers on my LinkedIn page that as soon as we got off the call, I jumped onto my LinkedIn page and started making edits. I have a really dear friend that's been in HR for a long time, and so I had her take a look at my resume and just was like, "We're friends. Be brutally honest." And she was, and I will always take advice from other people. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. If I am the smartest guy in the room, I'm walking in the wrong rooms. So I always will lean on people. And I definitely did not take this journey, this most recent journey alone. I had a lot of great people that were looking out for me and checking in on me and keeping the process human and keeping my spirits up and helping me stay positive throughout it. So that was kind of part of the message on the post that I think you read that led to this conversation is, people want to help, but they not necessarily know how to help, and that's where that's your job as a job seeker is to reach out and ask and tell them like, hey, could you help me out with this, or could you do this for me? And I think overwhelming majority of people are going to say yes. It's just kind of breaking down that psychological barrier of, is it okay to ask? And it is flat out, it is okay to ask. So that's what I'm hoping the post that I made, that's the message I'm hoping resonates with people, is that your network here is there to support you. You just need to take advantage of it.
I think you asked a question without me even asking it, which would be, what would be like the piece of advice you would give to somebody that's going through this? I mean, I said the weird part to say this is 10 weeks is a lot to be unemployed, but it's quick in today's world. I mean, in
Yes.
reality, it is a quick time frame. I think they say on average now it's about 18 to 24 months for a lot of people, which is
I can't
heartbreaking in
imagine
a
that
sense.
pressure and that stress. That's crazy to me, which is also why I posted what I did and like, hey, reach out to me and don't be afraid to connect. May or may not be aware of this, but that first initial post that I made ended up getting 172,000 impressions. I got 1,200 reactions, hundreds of comments, about 400 new connection requests, and I've had probably between just in mails and LinkedIn, and I've jumped on phone calls with people who have asked. Probably had about 40 to 50 conversations with people, and they're all asking the same questions. It's like, what's your advice? What can you do to help me? And it's, part of it is what I talked about leveraging your network, finding those people that can introduce you to someone at the company that you're applying to. But it's also a lot of people just feel uncomfortable asking for help, and it's just giving them the advice that it's okay. Like the analogy I use is, if you're walking out of a grocery store or you're walking out of your local Costco and you see a little old lady trying to lift a heavy case of water out of her cart and put it into her trunk, you're going to stop. She doesn't have to stop to ask you. You don't have to be her friend. You're going to stop. You're going to help her put the water in her trunk, and you're going to go about your day, and it's no big deal because you can see what the problem is, you can identify it, you know exactly how you can help, and you just do it. And I think 99.9% of people are going to stop and help. And I believe 99.9% of people will stop and help if you ask them to help in your job search, whether it's to look at a resume, to make an introduction, whatever it is. People are good. The world is good, regardless of where we are in today's climate. I think that inherently people want to help each other. And so it's just getting past that, whether you feel like you're weak or you need to do this on your own or it's a burden to somebody else. It's getting past that and understanding that it takes an entire community to get through any problem. And in this market specifically, it's pretty much a prerequisite to get through your job search.
And I agree. And the one thing I've learned from the handful of conversations I had is people do want to help, like you said. The hard part for us sometimes is asking for that help. But once you do, I've had some great conversations with people I've never met before and just reached out to them and introduced myself. And they've, helped me kind of move my progress along on some opportunities. One of the questions I get asked by the people I talk to that are above them, they're always like, hey, how long have you known this person? I'm like, I just met him. They didn't have anything for me, but they thought you'd be a good person for me to talk to, and they were nice enough to make that introduction. So I think that is huge, and I think it's great that you kind of, in a sense, gave back to the people that helped you get to where you're at today, starting this new job. Because the one thing I see, and when I was talking to another, I can't remember which Matt it was. I think I've talked to 3 different Matts. They saw a post, and somebody said like, I'm excited, I'm doing a new position. And they're like, well, it'd be cool to hear how they kind of got that position, who helped them get there. And that's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion today, just to kind of share that information. One, so people know that, we are being successful out there, the people that are truly having to look for jobs, realizing that can't do by ourselves, have to ask for help. And in the long run, sometimes it takes longer than we'd like it to. We all get to where we need to get to.
Yeah.
And
it's unfortunate. I wish everyone could find a job in a day and everyone's back in the market. It's not the reality where we are right now. But I feel pretty confident in saying very few people who have found success in this job market when it went solo. Everyone had some help in getting to where they are with the people that are having success. Yeah, it's really important to be willing to ask and be a little vulnerable.
I gotta ask, I'm a big sports guy, and you wrote for a soccer magazine, so what was that like? Because it was for MLS, right?
So I started off, it's kind of a crazy story. I played soccer my whole life, big soccer fan. I was online on like a random website reading stories and stuff, and often like the little margin, there was a little ad that said, looking for soccer writers, and so I figure I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I know the game, so let's give it a whirl. And it ended up being for the Major League Soccer website. So I got a reply, and they were, when can you start? And I was like, whenever you need me. And they're like, get a laptop and get to at the time, the stadium the Galaxy played in was called the Home Depot Center.
Home Depot
And
Center.
they said, get to the Home Depot Center on Saturday. There'll be a press pass waiting for you at will call, and this is what you got to do. And that's how it started. I worked as a beat writer covering the LA Galaxy for a number of years, and then moved into a magazine setting. I couldn't believe I was getting paid for it, and the pay wasn't great. I was also a lot younger, so I didn't, and it was also a long time ago, so you didn't need your money went a little bit further back then. But I couldn't believe I was being paid to go watch games and talk to players and interview guys that I was also watching on TV and awestruck by. It was pretty intense and pretty awesome.
We were at El Trafico on Sunday.
Okay.
So we were there. We were there for the championship game last year. So we're big Galaxy. We're Galaxy people in this house.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they're struggling this year is an understatement.
needless to say, yeah, we were.
Yeah, but
We were happy with the draw on Sunday, which is kind of scary.
right.
But yeah, it's been a rough
Yeah,
year.
it was so much fun. I was there pre and then also at the beginning of the Beckham era. So it was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement around the team at that time as well. So it was really a lot of fun.
That
Couldn't
would have
believe
had to been, yeah. I mean, especially, yeah, that's how small it was back then, right? They literally put an ad out in the newspaper to get somebody to write for.
it. It was, and it didn't say like this is for MLS or for the Galaxy. I thought it was going to be covering like high school soccer or something like that. And yeah, and then it took off from there. I probably spent the first half of that season like with my head down, not like trying not to talk to any of the other reporters in the press box because I was literally like terrified they would immediately identify me as an imposter and be like, "Be gone! Like get out of here! You don't know what you're doing." And it wasn't until about halfway through the season that some of the guys actually like started talking to me, and they're like, "Come on!" They're like, I read your article, really good job," and I was like, "Oh, maybe I know what I'm doing here." Blossom from there, but it was a blast.
Awesome. Well, you're my second professional person that's worked in the sports industry that I've interviewed now. So
Hey, there you go.
I got the Rams covered. Now I got a Galaxy person covered. Now I got to find a Doyer or a Angel person so I can get them on the
I
podcast.
know someone who works for the Dodgers, so maybe we can make a connection there.
So, actually, so do I. I went to high school with the guy. I don't know if he still works for them, but no, that would be awesome. Well, Greg, I know you're busy. Like you said, this is second weekend of the new job, so I truly appreciate you taking the time and sharing, your journey with everybody out there. I hope they gain some insight. I know no one's an expert on this. It's about just understanding what the pain people are going through, but there is hope on the other side. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, and to reiterate what you just said, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it might seem desperate for some people right now, but there are people that want to help out there, and I'm one of them. So anyone who watches this podcast that wants to find me on LinkedIn, by all means, reach out, and I'll help in any way that I can.
Great. Well, you have a good night, Greg.
Thanks, Christian. Take care.